Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's Tips and Tricks call. Today we are going to be talking with Bobby Kempfer. He's going to be sharing some information on the API management and how you can utilize this in your own organization as an effective management tool for the firewall configuration. So Bobby is a SE out of the North Carolina area. And Bobby, take it away.
All right, thanks, Kyle, and good morning, everyone. As Kyle pointed out, my name is Bobby Kempfer. I'm security engineer for Eastern North Carolina, and today we're going to cover, a basic overview of the management API. I know there's been a webinar on management API in the past, so I'm just going to cover some brief overview pieces just for people that may not be aware of it, and then we're going to dive into a couple use cases with demos. So as I pointed out with the agenda, so the target audience here is any system administrators that are trying to find a better way to improve productivity by scripting some of their daily tasks. And other customers looking to integrate the Checkpoint solution with other solutions that they might have, like ticketing systems, change management systems, et cetera. And then, of course, Checkpoint partners or integrators that are looking for an easy way to create a complementary product around the Checkpoint solution, which kind of where the demos will go kind of fits into this one. There are 4 ways you can use the management API, typing API commands from a dialog using SmartConsole. You can use a management CLI executable, which is available for Windows, Linux, etc. And you can type the commands using the Gaia secure shell. And then what we're going to cover today is sending the commands over HTTPS using web services. And that's what will be demonstrated today. So using the web services requires a certain piece of web request structure. Anyone familiar with programming or APIs at all will understand this. You have to have somewhere to post it. So you're going to post it to your management server and a port if you're not using the default, which is 443, the web _ API, and then what command you're going to run. Every post needs headers. There are 2 specific for the API stuff, which is your content type, which everything's going to be JSON, and then the session ID. And then the request payload you can think of as the body of the information you're sending. And this will be JSON formatted text containing different parameters depending on which command you're going to run. And then you'll get 2 types of responses, either a status 200 for successful requests or 500 if there's any errors. With the success response, the response string will be JSON formatted, and it'll contain varied content depending on the command you send and what detail level you request. For errors, it's going to give you the error messages. Here's an example, and this is the first command that needs to be run before running any other commands, as you need to get the session ID. And you're going to send a post request to the management server web API login. The only header you need for this is the application JSON. And then depending on where you're running your management, if it's in Smart One Cloud, you'll have an API key, and that's what you'll send. Or if you're on-prem, you'll have a username password, which is what you'll use to send the request to success or to login. On success, this is the important piece that I've highlighted. That is the session ID, which you'll need to include in all subsequent requests with this parameter. And here's an example of adding a host after you've done the login. So you're going to send a post request to the same management server with the command add host. And the headers again, application JSON, and then your session ID. The required post data for adding a host is the host name and the host IP address. There are many others, as you can see in the API guide, like tags, color. You can just pretty much anything you can set through SmartConsole, you can set through the API. And here's an example of what it would look like. So today we're going to be using Smart One Cloud as the management. So I'm going to mostly be on the API key side. And to do that, you would go into the tenant. You click on your settings, general, and create or generate to create the API key. Since I've already generated mine, it says regenerate. Important to note, make sure you copy this key to a safe place because you will not be able to see it again. So you would have to regenerate a new one if you ever lose that key. And then the one thing you want to do if you're on-prem is in SmartConsole, you're going to want to go to Manage and Settings, Blades, Management API, and determine if you want to lock it down tighter than the default is all IP addresses can send commands. I would probably lock that down a little more. And that is it for the presentation. I didn't want to waste too much time on that because I got a lot to get through on the demos. So the first use case I'm going to share is kind of, it's a personal one. It's for my home network. And I've got a teenage son that thinks he's smarter than me and is always trying to get around things. So I created this web application to allow us to easily turn off and turn on rules. My wife is not technical. She doesn't know anything about SmartConsole. She can't get into it, and I wouldn't trust her to get into it anyway, but let me share this out. We good, Kyle? Can you see that?
Yes, Bobby. Good.
All right. So sometimes we have trouble getting him to do things that he's supposed to do. And anybody with teenagers knows the worst thing you can do is take away their electronic devices. Well, instead of taking them away, I just created a rule that allows me to block all his devices from being able to do anything, which he hates even more. So the problem became when I would be out of town, my wife was not able to discipline him by turning on or off his devices. So I came up with this little management API interface that made it very easy for her to come in here, click a button, and we'll wait for this to run. And I need to share my whole screen because I've got to go back and forth. Sorry about that, guys. Because I want to go back and forth between these. And you can see it's already updated here and it's already actually installed and everything. So now I've turned that block off. And as you can see, it shows here that it's been disabled. So a real quick, easy way to take a look at your rules and quickly enable or disable them on the fly. The second use case came from a customer where they had users that their IP addresses may change from time to time and they're in rules, and they wanted to be able to easily edit or allow their help desk to easily edit the IP address of a host. So the next thing I'm going to show you came from that. It's expanded from that. I've added a lot to it outside of just that, but so here's the second piece, and all of this is coming from the API. Everything you see here is all API based. So I just got some basic stuff at the top, service status, total number of gateway management, server objects, etc., network objects, host objects, group objects. We're going to just cover the last two here. And then I've got some basic gateway information, performance, disk use, memory free, CPU, etc. So we're going to go in and actually modify, do some host stuff. So the three basic commands you can use for host add a host, edit a host, delete a host. We'll start with add a host. I'm just going to add a new one. And again, the only required information are these first two. Anything else is optional. You can add it to a group from here. You can add it to rules if you know what rules you want to add it to. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to add it to that. I'm going to add it to that rule and I'm going to submit. And over here, it's going to show you what it's going to do when you publish the changes. At this point, you do have the option you can discard them and it won't make any changes. So it's going to show you all the stuff it's going to add. And then let's flip over here. So this is the rule I'm adding it to. You should see in a minute after I hit publish, the new host will show up in that rule. And there we go. There's the new host. And then we'll go into the group and there it was added to the group. Oh, and it published already. From this point, you can either choose to install policy now, or you can, just leave the published changes as is. And the next time someone installs policy, they'll get installed to the gateway. For now, I'm going to leave it like this. So this goes into the specific use case the customer had, being able to edit the IP address of a host. So we're just going to take the one we just created. I'm just going to change the IP address. Again, just showing you what it's going to do. Publish it. Come over here. Take a look at that host. And you can see it's now 125. As you can see, I've got a whole lot of objects, host objects in here. But over here, we're only seeing certain ones. The reason for this is, unlike policies, which you can separate out, and I'm only showing the lab policy. Objects are global. So they can be used, they're independent of the policies and could be used anywhere. And I didn't want my home network, because I allow people to utilize this for testing and stuff, to be able to change my home network objects or policy. So what I did here is I used tags to tag all the lab stuff. So when I added this host, it automatically added the tag lab. That way I can filter out anything that's not in the lab. It doesn't have the lab tag. And you can't see it and modify it, change it, etc. So it's a cool little way to if you only want people to see certain objects, using tags is a good way to do that. And again, I'm just going to leave, I'm not going to install policy yet. And the other part of their use case came up later on. They did want to be able to delete objects. Like a host if they no longer work for the company or whatever, and automatically remove it from the rules. So we're going to go in. I'm going to submit this to delete. It's going to tell me where it's all used at. So again, all API based. I don't have to go hunting for these in SmartConsole. It just automatically tells me, hey, it's used in this group, and it's also on this access rule. I'm going to remove it from the rules. I'm going to publish the changes. And as you can see, it's gone here. The host is gone. Obviously, if the host is gone, it's going to be out of the group, but I'm just going to show it anyway. And it's out of the group. At this point, if you had multiple gateways, policies, policy packages, etc., they would be listed here. For this purpose, I've only got my lab policy showing in my lab gateway, because I don't want people changing my home network policy and gateway. We'll click that, and it's going to do a in the background. It's checking that task ID. I think I've got it checking every 5 seconds or so. So it'll run here until it's complete. And in SmartConsole, you can see it's installing right here. And I got to let this complete, so I'll go point something else out while that's running. So the filter, this is another thing you can include with your request. So if you have a ton of objects, by default, it will show you 50. You can, 50 objects, whatever you're looking at, groups, hosts. You can change that number again through your request from anywhere from 1 to 500. But let's say you have 1,000 and you're looking for specific ones that, maybe are named test. As you can see in here, we have 3 tests and 1 that's not test. So I'm just going to search for test or filter by test. And now you can see it's only showing me the test ones. It got rid of the other one. So a quick way to narrow down if you've got a ton of objects and want to find a specific one or specific few. This expires in, this was added for that customer use case. This requires you to have a backend database to store a value. There's no API command, obviously, to delete, after a certain period of time. So that's all done through code. But they wanted to say, we want to add this host for 30 minutes. So they put 30 minutes on it. It saves a value to the database. And then there's a script that runs through cron that will go check that. If it's, expired, it runs through the same process you saw with the delete. It goes, finds where it's used, removes it, deletes it, done. And we're done here. So go back here. Everything looks good. The other thing you can do is you can view, when I was demoing this to the customer, they wanted to be able to see who was connected. So it shows you. So it shows that I'm connected as, through the SmartConsole, as well as anybody that's connected through the web API, like we're doing here, is going to show up as this. That's the way the admin one shows up for the web API. And with that, I actually got through that a little quicker than I thought I was going to. That's it, Kyle.
Great job, Bobby. And thank you for the presentation. So as a reminder, if anybody has any questions, please use the Q&A. And Bobby, we do have a couple of questions out there I'm going to run through. So when using the management CLI commands, is there a way to verify syntax first? Kind of like a dry run.
There's not that I know of. I can definitely check and see if there's something that I'm not aware of. But if the syntax is wrong, the command's not going to run.
And I know that we can always do a help type syntax in order to
correct. Yeah, if the syntax is wrong, it's not going to run. I've run into that a lot, even using the web API where the formatting wasn't correct, and they're very good at returning errors. So if it's not right, it's not going to run.
Yes, the presentation will be recorded and we'll be able to access it. It'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And so the information will be sent out after this session ends.
And we'll also include in that email a link to the API guide.
That was another question that we had, Bobby, is about documentation, how to stay up to date on the latest features that are coming out with the API.
Yep. So that document's pretty well updated. It's pretty well. I mean, it gets updated every time they release a new version. So right now, I think we're on version 1.9 of the API.
Another question here, Bobby. So the web version of management API that was used, is this something new or something that was created by someone?
So the web services it's not that new. I mean, I had access to that in R8040, so I mean, it's been around for a while. I'm not sure when they added the ability to do that through Smart One Cloud, but I know I've been doing this. I don't know what, almost 2 years now, and it's been available since then. So it's not all that new.
And the web application itself is created by you or
yes, the web application was complete. Yeah, that's completely on me. That's not a Checkpoint product or anything like that. And for anyone that wants to know, I did that in using PHP. So that's all PHP scripting. You can use Python and some other scripting tools, but for the web application, I prefer PHP.
Bobby, another question. Are scripts out there for commonly asked functions?
Well, it's so I'm sure there is on our GitHub. I'm working on getting a GitHub set up for this stuff so that I can put this stuff out there so you have some pretty good examples to utilize. I know we've got there's some Python. I know there's some Python scripts out there utilizing management API on the GitHub. Maybe we should include our GitHub stuff in the email link as well.
And I'll also refer everybody to our Checkmates platform. Checkmates does have a toolbox out there that does contain a lot of scripts that utilizes API type of commands. There's other things such as smart tasks that can also be incorporated. Full list of tools available out there on Checkmates platform. So if you have not had the opportunity to take a look at it, I would encourage everybody to take a look at it.
Yep, good point. As a matter of fact, I need to talk and see if I can get my stuff put out there too. That'd be another good place to have it.
Bobby, question: Can we make the PHP code available to look at?
Yeah, that's what I was just I'm working on getting a GitHub set up for that. Yep.
And then we have one coming in.
Yeah, in the meantime, they can just reach out to me. My email my email address will be in that follow-up email. You can reach out directly to me for the PHP code, at least until I get it out to the GitHub.
Okay. We got, you mentioned your son is a smart kid and is able to figure out a way around things. I wonder if he already figured out the login info to the admin portal. Just kidding, but interested to know if you have any additional controls in place. Sounds like this is a common problem there, Bobby.
Yeah, funny he should say that. Because initially when I did this, I did not have a username password on it. It just went right to that screen that I showed you guys. I had already logged in. There's a username password now. Come to find out, after we would go to bed, I kept seeing that the rule was disabled, and I'm going, what in the world's going on? Why is this rule disabled again? Come to find out, he knew that my wife had saved the link in her favorites on her computer, and he'd come out here after we went to bed and log in, or not log in, but pull up the link and disable the rule so he could play all night. So yeah, I kind of foiled that. I've set the username and password, and he won't ever figure that out. But yeah, that's funny. So, but what was the specific question at the end? I had to go into the story though.
If there's any additional controls in place.
Just the username password, but obviously you could add, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. PHP is pretty good. But yeah, there's other things you could do. You could even add two-factor authentication into the login, etc. You're only limited by your ability to code.
Right. Yep. William Garner pointed out, don't forget about developer.checkpoint.com. There's another good repository for scripts.
Marking that down right now. Thank you.
A couple more questions here. Is Checkpoint API the good way to be interoperable with NDR to do remediation, for example?
That is a good question. One that I do not have the answer to. I would I know our NDR product is mostly API driven anyway, so I would assume that would work. But I have not actually messed with it myself. I mean, unless you know something different, Kyle.
No, I'm not aware of anything, Rob. I don't know if you know, but that may be a question we have to find the answer out.
Yeah, mark that one down, Kyle. Because
Yep.
I'd be interested to know the answer to that as well. I know the NDR solution is heavily API based, so.
And last question I got right now, has PHP been used in a MDS environment or just standalone management?
Just standalone for now, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't utilize it in MDS. And
Same type of feature set is available in
correct.
Those kinds of things.
Yep.
And that is the last of the questions. As always, I really want to thank everybody for participating. Just as a reminder, or just as an update, we will not be doing one of these in 2 weeks. We're taking a little bit of time off to end the summer, but we will pick back up on September 7th, and that will be the next tips and tricks. So look out for the communication about the next tips and tricks, and we will be sending that out soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.